You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a more modern approach to selling, the application of virtual and hybrid selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, which is part of the special mini-series about selling in the Gulf. And I'm delighted to be joined by Zaid Darwazeh, who has agreed to join me from Dubai. So Zaid, welcome.
Thank you, Fred, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast.
Now, I can see from your background that you're going to be able to give us lots of value because you've got, I think if I'm correct, you've got two roles. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have like a full-time role and I have a voluntary role while I'm based here in Dubai. Let me maybe start with my voluntary role and then we jump into the full-time. I joined this community of business people, which is the Jordanian Business Council, around 4 years ago. And we tend to connect business and investors with the startups and also with local government and private sector leaders. The essence of this group or community is to make sure that all the businessmen that are based in Dubai, the Jordanian businessmen, have the access to the right resources in case they are looking for expanding their business or starting a new business, or if for any reason they are facing a certain challenge, maybe trying to get a government permit or a license, or they are trying to import or export something. The Jordanian Business Council is tied up with multiple government entities such as the Chamber of Commerce, the Economic Department, the Ministry of Finance, and other government entities, as well as other business councils, to make sure that the business community is talking to these members and ensuring that there is a seamless transaction happening in case of any business venture. So that's the first, I would say, role, which is the role that I am handling within the Jordanian Business Council is the technology lead. So I look after any IT or tech event or business venture that's coming to this region or that have arisen from this region that can be of a benefit or an added value to the businesses of the Jordanian businessmen or the Kingdom of Jordan as a country as well. I hope I'm giving you enough information. If you have any questions, please feel free to.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's really good. And so that's a part-time job. That's voluntary.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a paid job, basically.
But very worthwhile. I bet that's very fulfilling doing that.
Yeah, it builds a lot of, I would say, network, and it can add value also to the other job that I'm doing, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. So back in the days, I graduated from the American University in Dubai. I started in consulting with the Big Four. Then after a few years, I felt that I want to do a sort of a change in my career. So I moved into sales. And that was I would say, the spark of finding my passion. And, in sales, you tend to meet a lot of people, you tend to face a lot of challenges. I was playing multiple hats, connecting to clients, finding new clients, building a pipeline, knowing or learning the product, which is something also that was new to me as I was working with a system integrator that sells multiple products. Until then, I moved to the vendor and I became more specialized and specific to certain technology. But yes, about my background. So I studied IT, and when I went to sales, I was specialized to sell technology and IT products and services, ranging from server storage to software to big data recently in my recent career with the cloud era. So that's my background, if you ask me.
No, that's cool. So, I mean, really in a strong position to talk to us about some of the challenges that you see facing industry in general in the region. What would you say the biggest things are?
So, as you know, the GCC region or the Middle East region have a lot of synergies, but at the same time, it have different maturity levels. Where we are based today in the GCC, these economies are fast forwarding toward futuristic, toward innovation, toward digital and AI. So, in order to have a pace where people need technology, here is a major challenge because technology is developing in a pace that is really light, right? But the evolve of people or a human is again is slow because to study something it takes a lot of time to learn it, to try it, to test it, to practice it. While in different parts of the world, there has been some other development. So sometimes you might feel that regardless of what you have studied in the past 1 month or 2 months, there has been some new technology presented in the world and you might be out of it. So the biggest challenge today, I would say the awareness and the knowledge that the customer might have. You might be selling something. It might be something that have been developed for a different market or the other market have adopted it faster than where you are. But when you start introducing it in the local market, still the market have not reached that stage to adopt it. So this becomes like a gap where you are trying to sell something that doesn't fit the pipe that you have. So this is one of the major challenges. But again, not all your fingers, I would say, are the same length. You will find somewhere where customers are faster than others in buying or adopting or executing or deploying any technology. That's the, I would say, the IT beast, which we try to create so much awareness before we go on site and start the conversation to make sure that the customers are or the clients are ready for such conversation.
And okay, I think you're already starting to answer my next question, which is so how are the best companies, the best salespeople adapting to that? And it sounds like by giving information, by helping people start to understand this
Yeah.
is one of the areas. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, depending on the company and what they sell and what they provide to their end users, it varies. But the common thing is the language. Today, if you are in this market and you speak the language, whether it's Arabic or English, because these are the most used ones, you have done at least 20 or 30% of the job. Then understanding the culture. The culture is very important because at one client space, you might find 10 different cultures and you have to learn at least the basics, how you need to deal with the different people because what might be okay for you might be offensive for the others. So again, if we covered the language, if we covered the culture, we are 50% through.
Hmm. Yeah, no, interesting. I mean, yeah, I appreciate language. I speak Spanish as it happens, and I try to speak English reasonably well. But when you learn a language, I personally I find it very hard not to be taking in some of the culture as well. That's the whole point. To just learn the words, just learn how it works, isn't really the point, is it? It's like, but how do people, use it? What are the people who are speaking this language? That's the fascinating part, I think.
Yes, yes. If you imagine, even the body gestures,
Yeah.
understand it very well, it might make a huge difference in your conversation.
Oh, because when we're communicating face to face, non-verbal is probably got more importance than the words or even the pitch, pace, and tone. And if
Exactly.
I'm right, I'm not an expert in Arabic, but Arabic is very much about tonality, I think. Is
Yes.
that correct? Yeah. One word can mean different things if you say it wrongly, correct?
Yeah. So we talked about language, we talked about culture. That's around 50% of the formula. The rest of the 100% is building trust.
Yeah.
So 50% of the 100, the remaining, are about trust. In this part of the world, if you have built the trust, you are able to make a sell. But in case that trust have been scratched or damaged, then you need to find a different job, or it will take a lot of time to recover from the damage that happened.
And what do you see some of the best people who build trust do? What's the secret to trust building?
Yeah, trust is, it depends on the style of the sales of the salesperson. I might be a kind of a person that spends a lot of time with the other party or the third party or the end user to build that trust before I do the first transaction. While other kind of salesmen, they will do the first transaction, and if it goes through in a good way, that's a trust. So it really depends on which school you are coming from. I am the kind of a person that's really patient, and I like to give the opportunity its right time to develop and be on the right track. I'm not in favor of or in pushing to create the hybrid and fast track where things might just fall down at once and damage the whole ship. No, I like to build the right sequence, connect with the right people, make everybody aware, create the right synergies, and ensure that we are building the opportunity or transaction on the right foundation, because that will give me the right building block for any future opportunity
Yeah,
without being on a shaky grounds, I would say.
sure. Because you're involved in quite a complex sale where there are lots of stakeholders, correct? There's lots of different people who are all trying to achieve something different. So you've got to do this many times over to make sure everybody's happy.
Exactly, exactly. And you would see that most of the successful salespeople, especially in the big companies, have that momentum, long patience, a good charisma, of course. And they, as I said in the beginning of this meeting, they play multiple hats. So they are with the end user at the same time, they are with the partner at the same time, but they are with protecting their company's interest. So to play all these roles in the right way to make sure that there is no gap or shaky grounds when you are going to do the execution. Because the moment that one of these, I would say, links
Mhm.
uh, off, the whole chain becomes weak and you might lose.
Yeah, no, totally. The weakest link can break the whole thing. And so, okay, is it fair then for me to extrapolate from that that some of the mistakes people make are when they try to push too quickly and they're working at pace and it needs to get done and they want to create that urgency and they're not giving it the time and space for all those relationships to develop? Is that the mistake?
Yes, that's a mistake. And I can tell you why this mistake happens. And it happens, say, more than you might think. It is about the commitment. Today, you have been asked to do a task or to do a sell.
Yes.
It depends really on how you are updating your counterpart or your superiors about this sell. But if you feel that you are under pressure at any point in time and you start giving a progressive update that is not matching reality, then you start pressuring your customer and your end user, which eventually, if the customer is not patient enough and not understanding enough, might fire back and turn that deal to be out of your pipeline or out of your forecast. But keeping your superiors or your team leads, your managers, whoever the upper level or layer is, informed about the right sequence of activities happening, the right update, where do we stand today, what's happening next, that's where the pressure is released. But
Yeah.
most of the problems or the mistakes that are happening today is when I'm trying to give an extra update or a flavored, I would say, update to my superior. And that's not reality, because in my next update, I need to start building on my last update, which was not 100% accurate. So that's where the weak link starts to break out.
I agree. I mean, I think this is such an important thing. That's why we building a buyer enablement platform into the training we deliver, a thing called Box Step, which helps you focus on the people, on the relationships, on what you know about them, on what you're doing with them, for them, way more than just a CRM system, so that you can demonstrate progress with that. So while it's okay, I've not got an order today, but look, I've got more information, I've got more contacts. We are doing things together. We are moving the thing forward. Something like that, you're saying is a very good use of time and effort.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Always give transparent, clear vision about what's happening with you. So the whole ecosystem actually supports you rather than apply pressure on them.
Yeah. 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 No, love it. Love it. That's really great advice. And just thinking about advice then, what advice would you give to yourself when you were 20 years old? So imagine you're just starting out, you're new into this world of business. Yeah. You know a lot now. What would you love to be able to travel in time and tell yourself?
Yeah, to be honest, 20 years old is a bit tricky because it might be that you already have graduated, but it might be that you are still in university. But nevertheless, if you are in the business world, whether you are 20 or 21 or 22, the first advice that comes to my mind is don't be in a hurry to make money. Because once you start be driven by money, you lose your focus and you lose the way that your mind or the way that you think about how you can build the right career. I remember when I was applying for my first job after I graduated from my university back in Dubai, I met with senior guy that owns a lot of business. He's a friend of my father. And the first question he asked me when he was interviewing me, are you looking for money or are you looking for career? And at that point in time, my inner sense wanted to say, I'm looking for money. But I thought that if I would say that, then I would sound commercial, and I don't want to sound commercial. And I actually want to take a better advice. So I chose, I'm looking for a career. And that's how I landed in consulting and then moved from consulting to sales and where I am today. I'm not sure if I chose money where I'm going to be, maybe I'm going to be in jail. So, so yeah, that's a joke. But yeah, the if you start being driven by how can I make money fast from day one, you might lose your focus on choosing the right option for yourself or choose the right career path for yourself. So I think what I did was good for myself because I had a good learning curve after I graduated. As you know, in university, you learn how to deal with things, but you don't
Yeah.
get a lot of knowledge because there's too much to absorb in these 4 years. But the time I spent in consulting gave me a lot of knowledge, a lot of soft skills, a lot of things that I have built throughout that career and used in my whole career until today. So if I go back to your question, what kind of advice will be given at 20 is not to be in a hurry. I was in a hurry a bit, but there is not, and at the beginning of your career, you are still, I would say, a light version of yourself. There is no much commitment needed. You are still maybe not married. You don't have kids. You can try right, left, up, down, 360 to choose the final track that you want to be on. I think I have put it hard on myself to be immediately like on a right track. I didn't spend maybe enough time to try multiple paths, but I'm happy where am I definitely. But for anyone who is just entering the business world today, there are so many options. There are so many endeavors that you can start your own company. You can work for a different industry than what you have thought that you would start with. So explore, read more, understand, and take a decision. Don't just take a decision and then reverse engineer the homework and the
That is perfect. That is such good advice. A really, really good point for us to end on. Don't be in a hurry. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Zaid, thank you so much for sharing that thought. I mean, plenty in there. I hope people can take away. I really do appreciate your time. And yeah, real pleasure to speak to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Fred. And I look forward to meet you in Dubai next time.
Oh, hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, Fred Copestake. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe for more and leave a review. If you didn't like it, also leave a review. It's all about feedback and learning.